Hi, I'm Samuel today, and I'm here to read the Daily Reflections book for September 20th, 2025. It's called HP, like as in higher power, as guide. See to it that your relationship with Him is right, and great events will come to pass for you and countless others. This is a great fact for us. That's from Alcoholics Anonymous, page 164. Having a right relationship with God seemed to be an impossible order. My chaotic past had left me filled with guilt and remorse, and I wondered how this God business could work. AA told me that I must turn my will and my power over to the care of God as I understand Him. With nowhere else to turn, I went down on my knees and cried, "God, I can't do this. Please help me." It was when I admitted my powerlessness that a glimmer of light began to touch my soul, and then a willingness emerged to let God control my life. With Him as my guide, great events began to happen, and I found the beginning of sobriety. Period. The end of today's reading. You know, I've been in this program like 20 years, and I've been reading this book almost every day for that period. Well, obviously, I haven't been reading September 20th page every day, but right this minute, I don't recall ever hearing the great fact, and it's in, I don't know if you can read that, probably not, because I can't read it in the viewfinder. It's in capital letters. Well, capital G, capital F. This is the great fact for us, which it is when I admitted my powerlessness that a glimmer of light began to touch my soul, and then a willingness emerged to let God control my life. This bit of light touching your soul, however you sense that happening to you, and then a willingness emerged to let God control my life. That could be a huge part of the great fact, because in the big book, I'm kind of going out on a limb here. I don't have a bunch of story stuff behind this one, but in the Alcoholics Anonymous book, it says something. It says lots of somethings. Please help me. It's when I admitted my powerlessness that a glimmer of light began to touch my soul, and then a willingness emerged to let God control my life. With Him as my guide, great events began to happen, and I found the beginning of sobriety. Oh, the compulsion to drink was lifted is a portion of a sentence out of this book, I believe, and I'm sure it's been copied and pasted into this book somewhere also, that this compulsion to drink, if you recall a few days ago, I mentioned, because I've read it like in the big book, I've felt it happening in me, but I wouldn't put it as eloquently as they do in like this book. What I really like, where is this other book? The 12 by 12 book is worded in a way that is just wonderful. I think it's because it's American English from the 1950s, and a lot of people in America at that time were feeling great. And it leaked out into our regular speech patterns, and it's just a happy book. The 12 by 12, it's written in a happy mood. The subject matter is dark and depressing, some of it, but it's important. Okay. Anyways, I'm an alcoholic, and I know this. if there was a very simple blood test, say, that you could take, and it would tell you if you're positive for alcoholism or negative, I could take that and there would be no doubt at all that I am an alcoholic. I don't think it quite works that way. And here's a thought. What I'm trying to get to is some point out of this book about this compulsion to drink. And now with this blood test thing, if it was that simple, that would probably indicate that there's something, oh, I'm sorry if I'm fiddling with stuff and making noise, a physiological thing in your body that's causing whatever result that you're witnessing. Okay, so we have that in our really odd behavior. Just, we're going to need to gloss over that a little bit. The alcoholic, me, we have that in our behavior, the physiological sign, in the compulsion to drink after we have a sip of it, and then we just keep drinking and drinking. And you can tell that this person, or if you're on the outside looking in, it's like, that guy's hammered, I'm going to cut him off. And that's the last thing an alcoholic wants to hear usually. And then we just find somewhere else and just keep on drinking. Okay, and so, I don't know, as a physiological marker, that's evident. But you still can't take like this blood test. And this is all just because I said I'm an alcoholic and I know this. Because now this is it in this book, in the big book. I think it says that there's also a spiritual malady going on. It's your spirit's broken. Your spirit is gone, or suppressed, or depressed, or something to some point. That the only thing that's going to fix you is like a spiritual answer. This is all my wording. And so they want AA people to get a higher power, a concept of a power greater than yourself. And yesterday I was touching on this because it said, what did it say? I'll read it out of here. We admitted we couldn't lick alcohol. This is called Acceptance from September 19th, Daily Reflections book. We admitted we couldn't lick alcohol with our own remaining resources, and so we accepted further. And so we accepted the further fact that dependence upon a higher power, it again with a capital H and a capital P, dependence upon a higher power, if only our AA group could do this hitherto impossible job, which is to stop drinking, to eradicate this compulsion to drink. Now, in today's reading, it said that we get this great fact that, you know, it's not in the promises that I know of. And I could read that, but I'll run out of time. We'll check back into that in a minute. Having a right relationship with God seemed to be an impossible order. Copy that. Seemed to be an impossible. What did it say yesterday? Could do this higher power could do this hitherto impossible job. And I'll tell you that it is possible to have some kind of relationship with a higher power, a power greater than yourself, something bigger than you. And I used to say, like, alcohol was my higher power for a long time, because it controlled my every move. I was, in this book again, or somewhere else, King Alcohol, I think, or something it says. You know, and that was my king, was alcohol. Well, maybe more properly, alcoholism. And then the way I tried to get feeling better was through alcohol. And so any way to consume more alcohol, that's what I did first, before anything else, for a long, long time. And so I was King Alcohol's subject. Okay, now, man, I got a scatterbrain today because I'm trying to get down here to the bottom of this page for today's reading. Something about you might understand or feel this great fact coming to light that I went down on my knees and cried, God, I can't do this. Please help me. It is when I admitted my powerlessness that a glimmer of light began to touch my soul, and then a willingness emerged to let God control my life. Rather than alcohol control my life, that's why I was saying alcohol was my higher power at some point. All I did is what alcohol wanted to do. I listened to alcohol, it controlled me. And then it's like, well, now I need a much better higher power than that. And I searched for a long time. Probably better than a year and a half. I think around 2 years. Because yesterday I was saying I just needed to do two things is what I set my mind to. When I came into AA, this broken man, oh my God, it's making me want to cry right now. I was in such rough shape. God seemed to be an impossible, having a right relationship with God seemed to be an impossible order. My chaotic past had left me filled with guilt and remorse. And I wondered how this God business could work. AA told me that I must turn my will and my life over to the care of God as I understand Him. With nowhere else to turn, I went down on my knees and cried, God, I can't do this. Please help me. It was when I admitted my powerlessness that a glimmer of light began to touch my soul, and then a willingness emerged to let God control my life. With Him as my guide, great events began to happen, and I found the beginning of sobriety. So this first couple of years in AA for me, I determined I don't know much except for I'm in really bad shape. I don't want to go backwards. I don't want to go back to the drinking. I say that now, but I'm sure there were thoughts. I never did it, and this was all like 20 years ago. I never went back to drinking. I'm sure there were thoughts. Because, and still there are thoughts of whatever strength, that life can be very difficult, and we can really let life seem like it is going to kill us, which it will eventually. But thinking that in my sobriety, there have been times of difficulty that I would toy around with the idea that maybe a drink of alcohol would help. That thought has crossed my mind a lot. It's not a compulsion any longer, though. It's not, it's disturbing when it happens. And you know what that indicates? That indicates that I need to pray. I need to get in step 11, I need to improve my conscious contact with God as I understand Him. Because He'll slap some sense into me. He'll talk some sense into me. I used to call my sponsor and ask him to talk me in off the ledge. You know, like what I'm not going to go any further with that. Okay, so I know I'm an alcoholic. This is not a problem for me to accept that any longer. And that's what yesterday's acceptance was about. That we accepted further that dependence upon a higher power is probably going to be better, if not required of us. Because not only do we have this physical malady, we've got a spiritual malady. And I put some stuff in here earlier talking about this, that the Bible would say that we're a three-part thing with being, I guess, with a spirit, which the AA thing is talking about, and a physical body that, you know, actually can grab a hold of the booze, man, and start drinking it. And we've got a soulish realm. And so the soul in the Bible is your mind your will and your emotions, that kind of area. And then your body is your transport around from physical place to place. And your spirit is the part that is laying like dormant most of the time. And then when you get reborn again, or you might say in the AA speak, a spiritual awakening to get that dormant spirit back in the fold, in the play of things. It's like it wasn't allowed to cast a vote for what you should do today before because it was dormant, it was asleep, it was passed out, it was drunk, your spirit. And then you have this spiritual awakening. Bam! Wake up your spirit. And that guy now has a vote in today's activities, say. If you can picture it that way. That just kind of came to me. So HP as guide, the higher power. What is that going to be? Remember, that's why I went back to this phrase here where it says, higher power if only our AA group. Now, to get back to these two things that I figured if I could just do these two things at the beginning, I might have a better shot at staying sober longer than I did the last time, say. And it's been working for 20 years. The first couple years, these steps, man, were overwhelming. 12 steps. What? Can't do that. And then of course I just tried to do it all within my soulish and physical realm. I read the step. I thought I understood it intellectually, physically. I thought I understood this, even soulishly, I guess. You know, my mind, my will, my emotions were telling me this step sounds like it makes sense. This logically makes sense. I should do this. Step one was true. Powerless and unmanageable. Those two big words were just huge in my life. So it's like, okay. And then I tried to do all the steps only consulting with my physical brain up here, which was marred deeply by alcohol. Still, even for 2 years. Still now, even. Another thing my sponsor and I would joke about is one of us might come up with something particularly clever at some point, and then the other one of us would say, you should have quit drinking like 10 years earlier, because maybe you'd have more points like that, and you'd be a brighter guy to hang around with. Anyways, man, I'm getting putsy and flibberty jitted, bit, whatever. I'm getting twitchy. Anxious. I'm excited, I guess. 18 minutes. Okay, so two things that I determined that if I could do these two things, I'm going to be okay. Stop drinking alcohol, which wasn't that much of a problem, really. It's odd because I was physically dependent upon this stuff, and then my life in that way took a big burning crash, and I woke up in treatment at a VA hospital for chemical dependency unit or something like that. I forget what they call it. It's not germane to what I'm talking about here. It was a new lifestyle, and well, maybe I don't think I have time, but I had determined, man, I need to be locked up. I can't be trusted. If there's alcohol about me, I will consume it. And then I'm going to be back at square one, which is ugly for me. So I wake up in treatment, and I'm like, I can't do this. 12 more steps. All these people are telling me what to do. That's exactly what I needed. And it wasn't that difficult not to drink because it wasn't available, and it was strictly forbidden. And nobody was talking about drinking the way that I wanted to talk about drinking. So it wasn't that difficult. The physical dependency part had left me, but man, the the spiritual part of me, or the soulish, the whatever part, was screaming for a drink. And it was distracting. And it put me in a foul mood. So, the other thing that I did was to just, if you watched yesterday's video, I make a better point of these two things, because now I'm coming up short. Keep going to meetings. Stop drinking alcohol and keep coming to this meeting, this AA meeting. And I didn't want to do either. I didn't really want to quit drinking alcohol, because this is when this thought, a drink would really hit the spot right now. And then, I got to go to this meeting. This meeting, I don't think I'm getting anything out of it. And that was like for the better part of a couple of years. And then I guess maybe this great fact is where I jumped off here. This great fact hit me that it's my spirit, man, my spirit part, the component of me that is some kind of spiritual thing, has maybe become awake, or has been jostled, it's been nudged, it's been disturbed awake. And then fully I did have this great thing, this step 12 spiritual experience that happened at a meeting. And I realized, well, I can't get into that now, we're too short on time, but check back in at a later date for that. I will eventually cover it, I hope, if my channel stays up long enough and I stay alive long enough. Anyhow, hey, thanks for coming by here. Your time is valuable and I appreciate it. And I'm sorry if I just get rattling off here and there, but I'll do, this is the best I can do today, so that's my pledge. I'll do the best I can to get at least this reading on tape so you can watch it. Thank you.